fit and internal fit. This slide I show every day because the first slide is always I show like this. And why I divide some aspect to external and some aspect to internal. When you think about the strategies, on the first day I show the big picture, and besides that big picture, you have to consider these aspects, 4 aspects: customers, competitors, resources, including technology, and organization, psychological aspects. And you can imagine where customers and competitors exist. It's outside. Suppose you are in the company, your company, and customers, competitors always exist outside of the company, your company. So they exist in the external environment. So that is why I categorize customers fit and competitors fit to the strategy as an external fit. At the same time, resources means resources that your company owns, which you are going to utilize for the strategy execution. That is why it's internal. Internal means that exists inside your company, organization. Psychological aspect, the same. It's a psychological aspect of the staff of your company, of your organization. I will talk about this tomorrow or day after tomorrow, because psychological situations of the staff influences a lot to the execution of the strategy, and staff exist inside the organization, internally. That is why I categorize resources and organization, especially the psychological aspects, as internal fit to the strategy. So that is why I categorize like this. Okay, and now the first group asked me the question about this slide 3. May I ask again to the first group, which part of this slide you want me to explain more again? Yes. Here. Here. You mean the 7S? Okay. Okay. McKinsey, that's a big consulting firm, when they try to summarize the necessary aspects that the people have to consider for the strategy, especially and the strategy execution, they identified 7 aspects. And all 7 was in English, start with S. That is why it's called McKinsey's 7S. And out of those 7 S's, 3, strategy, structure, and systems, are called hard S, because structure of the organization, system for implementation, operation, that is a kind of hard thing, but like shared value, staff, skill, style, they are kind of soft, like a software, not hardware, but the software of the strategy. And shared value, when we discussed about the customers, customers' need, we discussed about the creating shared value. That is a concept created by Michael Porter. Do you remember the word CSV, creating shared value? Why it is important? Because these days, there are people who emphasize certain value than other issues. typical example is the people who care about the environment more than other issues. In that case, if company shows they also have the same value, that they emphasize the importance protecting the environment, then show the product, which is a kind of environmental free products. Do you remember the case I showed you? That is the case of mineral water by Coca-Cola Japan. Coca-Cola Japan started selling the mineral water. The water itself is not so special, similar to other companies, but the bottle of the mineral water uses less plastic. So it shows they care about the environment. That is why they use less plastic for the mineral water bottles. And Coca-Cola Japan tried to show their value. They care about the environment. Then there are many young people, especially young people, who care about such kind of issues, environment, protecting the environment. Those people, whenever they make a decision which mineral water they buy, they often choose this mineral water by Coca-Cola Japan, because by buying this, they also care about the environment using less plastic. So showing the value, sharing the value it's getting more and more important even for the companies, because then it is possible that you can find very loyal customer for your products. That is why shared value is one important aspect for the strategy. That is McKinsey's 7S. Is it clear now, Mr. Toll? Okay, thank you. And group 1 also talk about this slide, tangible and intangible asset. And the 4th group also talk about the intangible asset. Then tangible asset is something you can see. You can see the actual person. You can see the material for producing something, components, facilities, buildings, and machines, capital, even money, you can see it. But these intangible assets, somehow it's a little bit difficult to, it's not something actual things. The skills or know-how, maybe all of you have some kind of skills, but we cannot see when we see you because it is not visible. It's invisible. And that is the same technologies. Technologies, of course, technology is integrated and companies use that technology and produce some products. But sometimes we cannot see the technology itself because it's invisible. And that is the same for brand. Brand, you can see the logo, but its brand is not only the logo, because people have some kind of images with that brand. That is why people buy it. I talk about the example of Louis Vuitton. It's not because people like that logo, but because with this name, Louis Vuitton, they have some kind of images, luxury, good quality, and so on. That is why people buy it. And somehow brand is not visible, invisible. So all intangible assets, they are used for producing the products or providing services, but they are all invisible. Tangible assets are visible. Both are necessary for the company, for the strategy execution, but the difference is visible or invisible. And one more. When I explain the effective utilization of the resources, usually this visible, tangible assets, simultaneous multiple use is impossible. No, I have this pen. And when I use this pen, nobody else can use this pen because there's only one. We can see it, and only one person can use this pen at the same time. That means simultaneous multiple use is impossible. Only one person can use it. For intangible asset, somehow several people can use these intangible assets simultaneously. For example, when people talk about the brand, other people can also talk about the same brand. Customer information, when one staff use customer information, another staff of the same company can use the same information. So intangible asset, invisible assets, that is something that several people can use simultaneously. Simultaneous multiple use is possible. That is the big difference between tangible asset and intangible asset. First, is it clear the difference, tangible and intangible assets? And then the slide 12. Okay, synergy. The first group also asked me the question about the synergy. And synergy, as I explained, according to Andorf, Igor Andorf, he said there are 4 kinds of synergy: sales, investment, operation, management. And I show the example of the synergy with the case of Ajinomoto. Ajinomoto, what kind of technology is used? Amino acid technology. And this amino acid technology is intangible assets. Ms. Nita, you asked me the relationship between technology and intangible assets. Again, technologies, this amino acid technology, if it's, of course, written in the sentences, of course, we can read. But these technologies, in fact, it's invisible. It can, and also it can be used in several products simultaneously. So this amino acid technology is intangible assets, and it can be used for Ajinomoto and for another product, in this case, supplement. Now, do you remember the mayonnaise company QP? QP, for the development of mayonnaise, they also developed amino acid technology. They also started producing and selling supplements. So this kind of technology can be used for different products. Also, brand or distribution channel, Ajinomoto already have, and this is invisible. It exists, but it's invisible. And it can be used by several products simultaneously. The same distribution channel is used not only for this kind of product, but also for different kind of product, in this case, frozen food. That is why to utilize this intangible asset more effectively, Ajinomoto company started producing frozen food product and started selling. It was not difficult for them where they can sell because they already have a connection with many supermarkets, distribution channel.
Recording in progress.
And they have a brand name. That is why they could use them for this new product. So that is synergy, and we in relationship with the intangible assets. I wonder if it's clear enough. Do you have any further questions? Any group? Many of you raise similar questions. Do you have other questions? No? So this difference, tangible and intangible asset, is very important. And just remember what kind of things are included in intangible assets. No? You can think of your company, your organization, even though you're from the government ministries, you think about the assets in your organization, what is tangible, what is intangible. Okay. Any further questions? Oh, and one more. I didn't explain in detail about this growth vector or growth matrix by Igor Andov. So let me explain a little bit more in detail. This growth matrix created by Andov, and it is the very simple framework to think about the technologies. Suppose you already produce something, no? That is the existing products. If you are producer of the food product, and if you produce the chocolate snack, that is the existing products. And you already sell that chocolate snack at the certain market, let's say in Vientiane market. So Vientiane market is existing market. Existing product, chocolate snack, and existing market, Vientiane market. If you want to sell more with these products and at these market, what kind of strategy you need? According to Andov, market penetration strategy is necessary. What kind of actions it included? For example, more promotion, increase more access points, like increase the number of the shops, and so on. That is market penetration strategy. Suppose you want to sell the same product, chocolate snack, to the new market. In that case, Andov called the name of the strategy market development strategy. And you need to find a new location. Let's say you decide to sell in Savannakhet too. So the Savannakhet is the new market. What you have to do to look for the new market. In this case, you found Savannakhet. And then new segment. Sometimes it's not geographical market, but sometimes different market. Do you remember when we talk about the customers? No, there are 4 aspects: geographical, psychological, those. No, so you can think of the new different segment, and it can be the new market. So sometimes it can also be the market in Vientiane, but targeting different. That is also new market. And in the existing market, if you try to sell new products, that is a product development strategy. And for example, you will increase the variety of your products. If you just produce chocolate snack now, maybe you will produce the snack with different taste, like a strawberry taste or different taste. That is having more variety, develop the new product, or start the new brand. Maybe similar product, chocolate snack, another kind of chocolate snack, different quality, then you will name the new brand, different brand. That is also the product development strategy. And finally, the 4th strategy Andov suggested was selling the new products at the new market. Now, that is totally new business for your companies. And in that case, he called it diversification strategy. diversification, do you remember where I talked about the diversification by US Steel or Sony? In the case of Sony, they originally produced like audio devices or TV sets and so on. But after the success of those products, they diversified their businesses to movie, making companies, music label companies, and so on. And if they are successful in the new business or not, it depends how closely related to the original business, how far you can have synergy in the new businesses. So when you think about the diversification, don't just think about the new business. First, you start thinking your original business and thinking if you can have the synergy with the new businesses. That is very important. Otherwise, that diversification is called parachute type, not doing something totally new. And in the case of US Steel, they started many new business which does not have anything to do with the steel production. Then they failed and they came back to the original business, steel production. So that is a diversification and also end of the growth matrix. This growth matrix, probably you will hear quite often in your life after you graduate with MBA degree. Do you have any question about this? No? If not, then I also showed some example. I talked about QP today, and I also talked about the Toray, how they utilize the tangible asset and intangible asset. Tangible asset, they use the production facilities, factories for different product, depends on the size of the demand, fluctuation of the demand. At the same time, they utilize the technology, intangible asset, I mean the technology, and enter the new business area. That is the case of Toray. But Toray almost failed in the new business, totally different from their original business, like a resort hotel or the Gold Coast. Fortunately, they stopped this idea, so they didn't fail much. So that is the case. And today, I want to explain from here, efficient accumulation. First, for the resource, you think about effective utilization, then efficient accumulation. Because when you start the business, you don't have any resources. So gradually, you have to add resources and expand the business. And there are two ways to accumulate. Difference is one is for tangible assets, another is for intangible assets. Accumulation of the tangible assets, it's not so difficult. It's very simple. You invest, you buy, and then you get. For example, one of the tangible assets, staff, human resource, you just employ. You pay the salary and you employ. Then you acquire human resources in your company. Purchasing the machine, pay for the machine, then you get the machine. That's all. So that is a direct resource accumulation, and especially for tangible assets. But in the case of intangible assets, it's not so simple, because intangible asset, if it's technologies, sometimes the company which owns the patent of the technology, you can pay for the patent and you can acquire that kind of technology. So in that case, you can do the direct resource accumulation of the technology. but that is only the special case for intangible asset, because usually intangible assets you cannot buy. If, for example, here, let me go back again. What kind of things are included in intangible asset? Skills. How do you get the skill? No, maybe you are trained, then you get the skill. And so for getting the skills, you cannot get it by just paying the money, because after you paid to join the training, you have to do yourself, no? Do something, and then you learn the skills. Brand, you cannot obtain the brand name by paying only money, because the brand is established with a long time, and you need to work on with the people so that people recognize the brand name and get to like the kind of brand. The customer information. Sometimes maybe you can pay and get the information, but the customer information, it's not so simple. Usually not many companies have enough customer information, especially for your business. So you need to try to obtain those information by yourself, by doing something. Trust from the people, from the customers. No, you cannot pay to the person and tell them, okay, I give you this money, so now you can trust me. It does not work. So that's kind of trust, or even the culture of the organization, moral of the staff. You have to do something else rather than paying for that. And again, so in most of the case, to accumulate such kind of intangible assets, you need to do something by yourself. Do you remember in the case of Kao? No, Kao is a company I introduced when we discussed about customers' needs. Kao established Customer Information Center, and they try to get the information to this information center. No, they encourage the customers, whatever claim, whatever complaints you have, you will inform us, but all comes to Customer Information Center. That is one example of the business system to acquire the customer information. And such kind of business system is necessary, and also in-house processes, this customer center, Kao have by themselves, didn't ask others to get the information and give it to them. So usually, intangible asset, if you do not buy yourself, you cannot get it. That is why here I said in-house processes, business system is necessary, because it is acquired only through learning by doing. Talking about the learning by doing, there is Boston Consulting Group also showed one thing. The more you acquire the experiences, it's a cumulative volume. That means you produce more and more. The more you experience in production, the cost for the production is reduced. Maybe you know the word economies of scale. What is economies of the scale? Anybody, what is the meaning of economies of scale? Anybody? Is there anyone who want to answer what economies of the scale? Nobody? Now, economies of the scale, for example, you produce something, you have a factory, and let's say you produce 100 products a day, then you have certain unit production cost. If you produce 200 a day at the same places, factory, then unit production will be less. Usually, if you produce more, the cost for the production for each product will be less. That is the economies of the scale. Economies of the scale means the more you produce, the less the cost is. And this is different. The more you produce, but doesn't mean you produce more at the same time. This is a cumulative volume. So even though you produce 100 today, 100 tomorrow, 100 day after tomorrow, cumulative production is 300. If you do more, the same work, then you learn more how to be effective, in production. And that is why the production cost will be less because you learn how to be more efficient. Boston Consulting Group's experience curve shows the more you have experiences, the less the cost will be. That shows that. And also this is one example of the learning by doing. The more they produce, they learn how to be more efficient. That is why the cost will be less. Learning by doing. And also there are some other frameworks. For example, Kaplan and Norton's balance scorecard. Balance scorecard, what is that? Before balance scorecard, usually the evaluation of the company's performance is measured by financial figures, revenue, profit, and so on. But balance scorecard said you shouldn't look at only financial issues when you evaluate the company. You also need to look at different aspects. For example, what kind of customer they sell, what kind of vision they have, what is the internal business processes, what kind of system they have for learning and growth. So they said by looking at all these aspects, then you can evaluate, you can measure the performance of the company in a better way. And here in this framework, there is a word learning. So they said what kind of the organization, how effective they are in learning is also one aspect that you have to look at, evaluate when evaluating the company. That is a balance scorecard, and they have learning too. So we can see how learning by doing is important. And again, learning by doing yourself, you will accumulate the intangible assets. And this kind of intangible assets, like assets created as a byproduct by working in your own system, it is difficult to imitate for the competitors, because competitors, if they don't do the same experiences in the operation, they cannot acquire the same resources. That is why it's difficult to imitate. One example, do you know Toyota Production System, no? TPS. And there are so many books about TPS. Why there are so many books about TPS? Because Toyota disclose their factories. If there is a researcher about the production system, Toyota let them come to the factory and check their system. And many people wrote the book about Toyota production system. Why Toyota allowed them to do that? No, if others can imitate the same, then, for example, if Nissan do exactly the same as Toyota, introduce Toyota production system, maybe it is not good for Toyota because Nissan can their production will be more efficient. Then why Toyota can disclose? Because they know they establish their own production system through their experiences, through their in-house processes. And because they know others will not do the same processes as Toyota did. So it's very difficult to imitate exactly what they do and what they get through their system. And that is why this kind of intangible assets accumulated through the business system, in-house processes, is difficult to imitate. Is it clear or difficult? Is it clear or still difficult? You can say it's still not clear if you don't understand well. Okay. If still have a difficulty to understand, you can ask me tomorrow at the beginning of tomorrow's class. Okay. So let me continue. Now we talk about learning by doing. And learning by doing, I'd like to talk about this with this again. Do you remember this? I used this when I explained the information flow. When I explained about 3 kinds of information flow, I said the more flow of the information within the organization, the more they can accumulate the resources. They can get the knowledge. But to circulate the information within the organization, they need to get the information, like information aid. Again, circulation of the information. I again showed Kao's case. Kao not only having the information, a customer information center, but they organize interdepartmental meeting periodically, use this customer information collected, discussed with various people from various departments, get together and discuss how to do with each the comments. And then they will discuss what each department can do to improve. And through that discussion, they get more idea and they improve. And that is why first, they need to get the information from the customers. They need to circulate that information within the organization. Then after the improvement, they have to show it to the customers. What kind of improvement it achieved. So this kind of rich information flow made the learning by doing possible. With this circulation of the information, they are learning by doing. And how to enhance, how to accelerate this kind of information flow. One way is a kind of doing the kind of having a kind of trigger. What is trigger? Here I put another word, Vanguard. What is Vanguard? Maybe it's more easier to understand if I explain this lean startup. Lean startup is one very famous book for those people who want to start a new business by themselves. This book is wrote by Eric Ries. This is the name of the author. And what Ries said, first, when you started the business, of course, you need to know if your products or services are accepted well by the customers. And how do you know that your product is accepted by customers? The easiest way is to show the customer your products or services and let them use and get their opinions. That's all. Very easy. And to get those customers' opinions. No, anyway, you have to show it to them. And to show it to them, you shouldn't wait too long. If first you start the business and make a sample of the products and show it to the customers and get the opinion, measures how the customer react, and get the opinion, learn what customers think about it, and with that information, improve and make another sample product. And you will circulate this kind of activities more and more. Then the more you circulate, the better products you can produce. Better products means products which can be more accepted by customers. And Rees said this kind of products is called MVP. MVP is not most valuable players. No, no, not the most valuable players. That means minimum viable, V-I-A-B-L-E, viable products. Minimum viable products, that is MVP. Just try to remember this word, MVP. Now, so again, your business, you start a new business and you prepare MVP, then once you can prepare the MVP, even though it's not perfect, just send it to the market and see how the customer react, get the opinion, measure the opinion, the customer's reaction, learn from it, improve it. This kind of circulation is necessary. Rees said, use the word pivot instead of circulation, but pivot or circulate this kind of cycle. Then you will learn more. And this is the learning process. Flow A, this flow A is accelerated by flow C. In this case, MVP is like the trigger or vanguard to accelerate information flow C from the company to the environment. Then you get the opinion, like in this information flow A. Then you will utilize, measure and learn it like a circulation B and improve the product and show it to the customers again. Circulate this cycle, means the same. So that is the trigger to accelerate the rich information flow, and also with the concept of the lean startup. Do you have any question about this? Have you ever heard this word, lean startup? No? If you are Mr. To, yes? You heard about this? Oops. Oh, you have never heard about that. Okay. Now you heard about that. And when you talk about lean startup next time, if you have opportunity to talk with entrepreneurs who just started the business, you often hear this word, lean startup. So try to remember this word, MVP. I emphasize that. You know why I emphasize that. Okay, so that is the trigger for learning by doing, rich information flow, and lean startup. And talking about learning, there are many other scholars who emphasize the meaning of learning. For example, Peter Senge, he is a professor of MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He talked about he wrote a book called Fifth Discipline for Learning Organization. He said, organization which continuously learn something new and accumulate intangible assets, they have 5 disciplines, characteristics. 1, I will explain this later. 1, personal masteries. Each member, each staff try to learn spontaneously, such kind of attitude. Team learning, even though each staff try to learn spontaneously, those staff in a team, when they create the team, they have to work very closely. Connect individual staff to the team. And also mental model. That means mental model is the old way of thinking. Let's say you are a producer of the ice cream. Mental model is old way of thinking is ice cream should be frozen. Who decide ice cream should be frozen? Maybe there is a hot ice cream in the near future, or you can create the hot ice cream. So no, to change this kind of mental model, to change old way of thinking is necessary for learning organization. And shared vision, again, no, we had several times used this word, shared vision. Again, to have a vision and to share such kind of vision is important, because then we have a image of basic concept and others have can understand your image of basic concept about your vision. And system thinking means when you think about something happening in the market, you try to consider various aspects related to that changes. System thinking means understand the structure of the society from the various perspective, and they are connected each other. And creative tensions is something that the organization is not stable, unstable, but unstable situation makes you more creative, makes the members of the organization try to learn something new. I will explain about the creative tension later again. So that is just a brief introduction of the 5th discipline for learning organization by Peter Senge. And one more, we talked about the synergy. And now I'd like to talk about the dynamic synergy. Dynamic synergy is a mixture of the synergy and product life cycles and product portfolio management. Again, in the product portfolio management, we had cash cow, and then I explained cash cow business can earn more profit, but you use this profit for investing in different business, for example, stars business. Then you will have some new businesses for the future. That was a product portfolio management. And product life cycle, each product has some kind of life cycle, introduction, growth, maturity, and declining. All products may be matured, but sooner or later it will decline. This is one example. Calculator, that is the old products of one company, Japanese company, Casio. Then Casio or Sharp or Casio, they produced this kind of calculator, and it was very popular. So it was like a cash cow in the past for Casio. Then using that profit from this calculator, they invested in another business, stars. That time, star product for Casio was this kind of watch. So there's some kind of overlap in time for the development of this kind of watch. Casio used the profit from the calculators. And calculators, because this time already the mature stages. Calculator still the introductory stages. So two products overlap. One product is already matured stages, another product introductory stages. Usually when you introduce new products, it should be overlapped. Although if you start selling the new products after one product already declined, maybe it's too late. So before it gets started declining, you have to start the new products. Otherwise, your business will be smaller. So have this kind of overlap in time, considering the product life cycle of one product and another product. Also think about product portfolio management, reallocation of the money, profit from one product to another product. This kind of overlapping is a kind of called dynamic synergy. To have a dynamic synergy, think about the mixture of product life cycle and product portfolio management. Is it complicated? The simple, just remember what the product life cycle is, what product portfolio management is. To think these two concepts together, then think about the strategy of transformation of the business from one business to another business, how you can transform, when you should transform, when your initial products get matured stages, you will start another products. And during this overlapping time, you will use the profit from the existing products to the new products. And reallocate the money to this. So that is a kind of, the concept is the mixture of two concepts of the product life cycle, product portfolio management. And that was the dynamic synergy. And now I want to introduce some of the cases of the Japanese company, how they accumulate the intangible asset. This is the case of one security company called Secom. Secom, before when they started the business, how they provide the services, sending the guard to all the buildings. Let's say they made a contract with 10 buildings to protect all those 10 buildings. What they did before, every day, Secom sent the guards to all 10 buildings. That is original business. But with this kind of business model, if they make a contract with 100 buildings, how many they have to send the guards? At least 100. If they send 2 each, 200. Then if they make a contract with 1,000 buildings, how many guards do they have to hire? 1,000. So the more you expand the business, the more you have to employ the people. It's not so efficient. How to be more efficient, how to be more competitive, they think about different ways. They install this kind of devices, the camera, at many places of the building. Also, they introduce the system, computer system. They get the information from the camera and they store those informations. Then they got much information about at what kind of situations burglars tend to come, or at what kind of areas more burglars come. And they accumulated such information by installing this. why it is important. Then with that kind of information, with this kind of device, they don't have to send the gas to all the buildings. No gas usually, but have this kind of devices. Once something happens, the gas come to this building. Then, even though they contract with 100 buildings, they don't have to hire 100 guards, maybe only 20 guards, because only when something is detected, guards are sent to the building. And by accumulating these informations, they got some kind of characteristic of the houses or buildings that burglars usually set as a target, or areas more easier for the burglars to be targeted. And they accumulate this kind of security database and use it for improving their system. So they, instead of sending many guards to all the buildings, they try to use the technologies and try to accumulate the data and information so that they can be more effective, cost efficient, or more efficient in protecting houses and buildings. Later, using these experiences, they introduce new system for individual houses. For example, these days, many families are getting smaller. The children, when they grow up, they come to the big city, and in their hometown, only the elder parents live by themselves. In that case, if they install their system, when something happened to their parents, this company inform the children what happened to their parents and try to save those elder people. The guards come to the individual house to save them. They expanded the new business like this. Why they could do it? Because they changed their business model and started accumulating the information of this with this kind of device and system. That is the case of Secom. And one more case I want to introduce is the Foxconn. It's not the Japanese company, it's Taiwanese company. Foxconn, it's famous because they produce iPhone. They are very famous as the producer of iPhone. Apple itself, they don't have any factory. They ask another companies to produce iPhone. And Foxconn is the most famous company which produced iPhone. In the beginning, of course, it was not a big company. It was a small size or medium sized company. Started the mold with the mold production. Mold is the kind of the components which is used for the production made of plastic or made of metals. And this kind of they started this production of the mold and accumulated the technologies in mold. Sometimes to train their staff, they had the mold school and improve their technologies. Once they got enough technologies for the mold production, they also expanded to another area like a chemical plating, and also improved the technologies by accumulating this technology in chemical plating. And more, they expanded the technology area. At the same time, they tried to integrate vertical integration. Vertical integration, before they produce only one components, then they expanded. In the end, they produce even the final product from components to final product. That is the vertical integration. Foxconn, as they acquire new technologies, then in the end, they can produce even the final product. They could succeed in vertical integration. That was one reason for their success. There's another reason for their success. During the recession time in Taiwan, they didn't lay off the staff, but instead they keep the staff and ask them to digitalize all the information in the past. What is the digitalization of the past information? Before, for the designing of the components, they draw by themselves, by hand. And during the recession time, this drawing, they kept all the design and they draw it again with the computer, with a CAD system, CAD and CAM. And they digitalized all the information. Once the economic situation gets better, then somehow they were lucky because there's a change of the technical paradigms of the electronics divide from analog to digital. So more and more digital technologies are required. And as I explained, they already digitalized the past mold designs during the recession. And again, once the economic situation gets better, they could utilize this information and their skills in vertical integration, producing the final products. Then that is why they got the trust from the customers, including Apple, and they could be the producer of Apple or other many famous manufacturers in the world, because now the production speed and cost was very competitive for them. So that is why they could develop their businesses. Accumulation of the technology as accumulation of intangible asset. I mean, the technology is one factor for the development. Second, accumulation of the information in the past designs as in the digital format is the second reason. And because of that, they could achieve high speed and low cost design and production. And with those intangible asset, accumulation of the intangible asset, now they are the huge companies producing products for many famous manufacturers in the world. By the way, transformation from OEM to ODM. OEM means official equipment manufacturing. Official equipment manufacturing means you get, if you are OEM, you get the design of the product from your customer company. Then you will produce it, but you don't sell it with your brand name. You will just sell it to another company sell with their brand name. That is OEM. ODM, official design original design manufacturing. Original design manufacturing means you don't receive the design from your customers. You design by yourself, then customers do not have to design themselves. It's more efficient for customers. And customer usually likes ODM than OEM because they don't have to design by themselves. And Foxconn, now they are able to design by themselves and even suggest what kind of design is more suitable for customers' products. That is why they could get the trust from the customers, and that is why they can get more orders. This was a case of Foxconn and accumulation of the intangible asset by Foxconn. Is it complicated case?
Excuse me.
Yes, Miss Nita.
Can you example OEM and ODM again?
Okay. For example, case of OEM. Suppose Miss Nita is the owner of the company producing what is good? Producing the ball, football, which is used worldwide in Japan, in Laos, in other countries. Football, ball for the football. But you don't sell with your brand name. You sell to the Japanese company, let's say, or you sell to the German company, Adidas. Adidas sell your products with their brand name, Adidas. Your product, you produce it, the ball, but your ball is sold with the brand name Adidas. In this case, you are OEM, and you receive this, what kind of specification this ball should be, you receive it from Adidas. Adidas gave you the design of the ball, you just produce based on their design, and they will sell with the name Adidas. In this case, you are OEM. ODM, Adidas also sell your ball with the brand name Adidas, but the design of the ball itself, you do it by yourself, by your company. Adidas do not design. Ms. Nita's company design and produce, and you sell it to Adidas. Adidas just sell with their brand name. So the difference is you can design or you cannot design. Actually, no, to design, it sounds not difficult, rather not complicated, but it's rather more complicated. Why? Because to design by your company and produce and sell it to the large companies, you need to get the trust from that company. And to get the trust from this world famous manufacturing company is very difficult. No, you have to show that you are able to design the good products. Then in the end, you are allowed to produce with their design. So it takes time to transform from OEM to ODM. Is it clear, Ms. Nita?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. By the way, no, talking about OEM and ODM, Sony, when they were in the 1950s, Sony was established after World War II in 1946. And after about 5 years, Sony's name was not famous yet, but they could produce a good radio. One day, when one of the founder of Sony came to US and tried to sell their products, radio. One American company said, okay, you can design the good radio, you produce a good radio, I can buy your radio, but I want to sell your radio with a brand name. And this offer was very huge amount. But the founder of Sony declined this offer. Why? Because Sony wanted to sell their product with their brand name, Sony. Their objective was, their target was to sell the good products under the brand name, not under others' brand name. So they declined this big offer, but in the end, it was the right decision because now everybody knows Sony. But this company, American company, which offered the big offer to Sony, these days, nobody knows this company. So Sony, if they started selling their radio under this name, maybe Sony could not get as big as they are now. So it was just one case of Sony. Okay. And one of the readings for the resource fit was dynamic capability. I just want to introduce this concept, dynamic capability. Dynamic capability is a continuous accumulation of the intangible assets. Ability. That is a dynamic capability. Continuously accumulate the intangible assets. How to continuously accumulate? According to David Tees, first, you need to sense the opportunity from environment. That means to understand the changes in the external environment, changes in technologies. Do you remember the pest analysis or pestle analysis? No, changes of the politics, changes of the economy, changes of the science, social issues, changes of the technologies. You will sense that kind of opportunity changes in the external environment and understand the opportunities. That's the first thing. The second, seizing opportunities by adding tangible assets. Then second is you get the tangible assets and try to start producing something anyway. Understand the external environment changes. Try to introduce new product or services, start production, providing services. Then in the end, you combine them, configurate for intangible asset. Then after combining, you also combine the intangible assets through learning by doing. You start production anyway, and if you continue the production by yourself, in the end, you will get the intangible asset through learning by doing. If you have three things, understanding the changes of the external environment and adding the tangible assets, like introducing new materials, new machines, and so on, then if you continue, you will accumulate the intangible assets, and that will make you more stronger, more competitive, and you will continue this. That is the dynamic capabilities by David Tees. So just remember this word, dynamic capabilities, and dynamic capability means you continuously improve your capability. How? Three things: understanding external changes of the external environment, introducing tangible assets, and learn by learning by doing, you accumulate intangible assets. That is, three things are necessary for continuous improvement of the capability. That is a dynamic capability. If you want to know more about this dynamic capability, you can read the article that I introduced. And through this process, what you will get, your capability, is something inimitable, difficult for competitors to imitate. That is a dynamic capability. Do you have any questions? If not, it's 6:55. So before the group discussion, let's have a break. So we will have a break for 15 minutes from now. So we will start again at 10 minutes past 10. Okay? So let's have a break for 15 minutes.